Hello everybody. I want to explain how I've approached the vocabulary for tools and how I see this fitting into the broader project. You can see I'm drawing here on the left hand side I've got the scenarios, and obviously that's coming from Work Package 2. And I see the scenarios, well actually what we've got is that Work Package 3 and particularly the work done by Tamo has broken down the scenarios into lists of activities. We'll have a look at what Tamo has actually done with the scenarios in a second. But he's broken them down to lists of activities, and within each of those activities he's made it quite clear that teachers need to do something and the learners need to do certain things, and that the technology helps them to do these things. Now, this whole business of needing to be able to do something I've called an affordance, in line with quite a lot of existing work on learning technology and the classification of tools. And what I'm proposing to do is to make a list of these affordances and to combine it with a list of the tools that we have, and so that we can create a relationship between tools and affordances. And I think if we can get a relationship working between those tools and affordances, then when we come to Work Package 10 and Work Package 9 with the registry and Work Package 7 on the composer, then we can basically feed the relationship between tools and affordances into those tools, so that we can actually do a matching between scenario descriptions, because remember this has come from scenarios. We can do a matching from scenario descriptions to the description of technical settings, and the matching of appropriate tools to appropriate technical settings, which obviously is the recommendation service from the scenario development environment. I'm now looking at the document produced in Work Package 3, which identified and mapped the activities that relate to particular scenarios. And so you can see that we've got a mapping here between the scenarios on the left hand side and particular activities on the right hand side. And as I scroll down the document, sorry, I've just got to find the right place here. As I scroll down the document, these activity settings these activities are spelt out in more detail. And importantly, within those activity settings there is indications of the sorts of technologies that we need. So from this description in these documents we can infer what it is that teachers need to do in their activities and the particular technologies which are envisaged as being used in those activities. So we can actually start to make a list, and this is what I've done in this spreadsheet, which I'm going to share as a Google Doc. So idea sharing, this is the first activity, which is about teamwork, being able to share ideas, being able to manage tasks between individuals. So these are all things that teachers need to do in order to conduct that activity as spelt out in the Work Package 3 document. What we also have in the Work Package 3 document is suggestions for technologies. And we know that we already have some technologies. Some of them are in widgets. We have things like Skype and MSN that you might use. So let's make a list of those too. So I've just created a list here of the different technologies that we might have. And against those technologies, there are a number of fields, which I'm just going through here, a number of fields which relate to the particular technical aspects of those technologies that we would need to be aware of if we were going to do any sort of technical comparison to identify whether a technology would run in a particular environment. But I think what's important for these particular fields, these have come from the ICAM project, OS platform, dev platform, license, database. These are all things which aren't contentious about the technologies. They're not open to interpretation. They're absolute facts about the technology which will affect it, whether it runs or not in a different environment. So there's our list of tools. So we've got a list of affordances, and we've got a list of tools, and those are both quite sort of delimited lists. The list of affordances is coming straight out of the scenario descriptions and as described as activities in Work Package 3, and the list of tools is just what we've got available. So we need to tie them together, and that's what I'm doing here. So basically I can take the ID of a widget and the ID of an affordance which that widget might have. So here I'm putting my affordance ID for the chat widget, and then we can put a number which gives an indication of the extent to which that widget has that affordance. Obviously the chat widget in Wookie has an instant message affordance, and it's clearly that's what it does. So we'd say on a scale of 1 to 10, that's 10. But a chat widget might also allow us to share ideas. So I've also put the idea share affordance there, but it won't allow us to share ideas and prioritize them in the same way as perhaps the ideas sharing widget, which is another widget that we've got. So you might say that the chat widget sort of allows us to share ideas, but it might not be the best tool for the job. So that's why in the list there I've given it a value of 6. And by playing with these values, we can sort of highlight that certain tools are most appropriate for certain jobs, but that other tools are reasonable alternatives for doing those jobs too. And I think when we come to sort of matching tools for the job, that this will be a useful thing for us to be able to do. Now, just going back to the diagram that I started with, by taking this approach, what we've been able to do is to create two fairly delimited lists of words, a list of affordances and a list of tools. And by having the flexibility that we allow ourselves to match affordances to tools means that we can change these relationships between tools and affordances as the project evolves. So, I mean, we're not going to get this absolutely right, but getting it right doesn't then become a matter of playing with semantics, playing with, oh, well, how does this describe what this does, and is this the best description of a tool? It simply means that we play with the mappings between the tools and the affordances, and I think that will give us that will allow us to evolve appropriate relationships between tools and affordances, which will allow us then to make the inferences that Work Package 10 needs to make in the scenario development environment.